Don't forget, QLAP, a free download presented by Office Furniture Source. Stephen Waguespack is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry.
The head cheese.
And one who wished me happy birthday. Hey, Mr. Wags, how are you today?
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Good.
So when Aaron was on vacation, not so long ago, you and I were here in studio, and one of the things we covered was the possibility of a Louisiana State Constitutional Convention. That was, I want to say, about 45 days ago. Maybe a lot has changed. What is your current stance? What are your current ideas on said get-together?
Yeah, we support one coming together. We think it's time to get a convention together to take a look at our 45-year-old Constitution, and it needs to be done in a way where the delegates are made up of people who are not the insiders inside that Capitol. We want it to be elected delegates from people outside the Capitol, outside the system, so some real-world perspective can come in, take a look at our Constitution, that in our mind has just become very overreaching and constrictive, quite frankly. If you look at
we did this about 45 years ago, and we sort of got what we got now. Explain to people, and in your mind, what would have to take place where we don't end up with something worse.
Well, look, there's always a chance anytime you go in and rewrite any law, whether it's a constitution or a law, that it could be better or worse. I mean, it's going to be written by humans, and humans are not perfect, right? But let's just take a look at what we got today. The 1920 Constitution, drafted by the folks of Huey and others, was replaced by the 1970s Convention, written by Edwin Edwards and others. And now we're here. I think we can do a better job than those two generations, first of all. I'll take that challenge any day of the week. The second thing, it's not really what you have to put in the Constitution. To me, it's just trim it up. I mean, the federal Constitution is a constitution of principles that guide us, and we legislate underneath those principles. In the Louisiana Constitution, we view it as a safety deposit box, and we throw everything we can in there. That thing's been amended 45 times in the last 45 years. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's so much overlapping big stuff, small stuff in there, and the reason why we don't like it is it has consolidated so much power in the Capitol and basically gives those guys very few options except for crazy taxes or going after things like higher ed and health care. That's really the only three options they have every single year because of that document. And so I think it's time to depower some of that Capitol, bring some of that authority back closer to the people. And, taxation closest to the people is definitely more accountable. And taking away some of the authority that the Capitol has to micromanage everything we do, we think could be an improvement.
There is a bill, I believe it was on the House side, to call a constitutional convention. Where's that bill? What's the status of that working through the process?
Yeah, it's HB 500. It's a bill by Representative Neil Abramson. And Neil's brought this bill for a decade now. And so it's not a new idea. It's just one that's starting to get more attention. And it'll be up next week. And I'll be honest with you, the votes are extremely tight. And so I don't know if it's going to get off or not. It's a close count. But I think next week you'll see this bill debated. I think the other thing overlaying over this is this session is getting short-circuited because the governor and others wants it to end early so that they can come in for another special session to look at taxes. And so there may be a timeout concern that comes with it. But we'll see. Next week will be the week that you'll see the fight come out.
Wags, describe what happens during a constitutional convention. How long does it take? If Robert wants to be on it, what's kind of time commitment?
Let me tell you
Robert's
right now.
running.
I am running. I would run to be a constitution. Would you? Would you run to be a constitutional delegate?
Well, I can because I'll be running your campaign to be a delegate. So
I like that, man. If I'm telling you, this is a done deal.
What's the process? How long does it take? What kind of process before we have a new document?
Look, it's pretty straightforward. The way it sets up right now, it would call an election, and it would say, "Hey, look, anyone in the state who wants to be a delegate to the convention would literally run." And the way the bill currently says is every Senate district, basically, as many people would run as they want, and the top 3 vote getters will become delegates. It may be amended next week to say every one person per House district, and we're kind of indifferent on that, as long as it allows for an independent election from people outside the system to run and be part of this convention. And so once they're elected, they go into the convention, and they take, the bill says 3 to 6 months to review the whole Constitution. I'll be honest with you, that thing might slip to a year. It needs to be done with the time needed to take a look at it. There'll be hearings around the state. Once they come out with a document they want to propose to the people, it goes straight to the ballot, and the people vote for it. And that way the people can say, hey, like what you did, let's vote yes. Don't like what you did, let's vote no and keep what we got. That is a healthy process, whether we end up with a document we like or not. I don't see the harm in that, because if we don't take this road and say, no, let's just stay what we're doing right now, let's take a look how it's been the last several years. The capital is not giving us good solutions on anything. It's always chaos. It's always some cliff that we're always being beat over the head with. Let's get out of this trap and get into a cleaner document and stop putting all of our power and tax dollars and patronage in that capital.
You know, you made the point repeatedly, and in fact earlier in this conversation, that so much of the power in Louisiana, as opposed to Texas, for example, is in Louisiana. We're power centric in Baton Rouge. Can you imagine a scenario where anybody in Baton Rouge will willingly give up so much of the power they have?
They will not. I will tell you, let me say it again. They will not. That's why you've got a couple of legislators right now screaming their head off, saying this is a horrible idea and there's a big conspiracy theory and all this stuff. Take a look at those guys' records. And those are the ones the last couple of years that have been pushing some of the big taxes. They've actually authored some of the bills. They don't want that power to slip from their fingers. And so they're throwing a lot of, mud around. That's fine. We can take it. But at the end of the day, I stand for a provision that puts the authority into the power of the people to draft a new document outside the system, and then the people themselves decide if they like it and if they want to vote it down or approve it. I think that's a healthy process, and it's time to go through it.
Wags, let me ask you this. There's a big fight about the safety net hospitals right now. Even Lafayette General threatening to terminate all 800 employees under what the budget looks like now. Do you think that these safety net hospitals are being used in this budget process, or do you think we genuinely may see funding destroyed for many of them?
Well, let me say it this way. At the end of this process, I feel very confident those partnership agreements are going to be funded in a manner that keeps everything going. I really do think that. I think right now there's a lot of drama out there, and it's trying to build up this tension so whenever they go back into the special session, they can all justify the votes they're about to take. But when we wake up a month and a half from now, those agreements, I think, will be funded, and I think they should, because they're providing good care and service in those communities.
Stephen Waguespack, head guy with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Thanks for your time this morning, Wags.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.